Hello, good people. Welcome back to our journey through the Academy League to try to get a World's Invite here at the end of the season. In the first video, we covered how I won a Slifer bracket, and in this video, we're going to cover how I won the Raw bracket as well. So we are one step closer to getting to our World's Invite. For those of you who don't know how the Academy League works, you start out in the Slifer dorm, where you play an 8-person single elimination tournament. If you win that, you get promoted to Raw, where you play a 4-person double elimination tournament. And if you win that, you're promoted to Obelisk, where you play an 8-person double elimination tournament. And the winner of the Obelisk gets a World's Invite. So this is my second time making it to Obelisk. Pretty happy to be back. And I'm once again playing a deck that contains Giant Trunade, Reasoning, and Monster Gate. As you all know, I have been loving the Machine Gate deck. So I just loaded it up for a Slifer one day. Didn't really have any expectations. Ended up winning that. So obviously going to play the Raw. Very happy to win it. I don't think I played the best necessarily in this Raw tournament, but you know, that's why we're going to get into the games. We're going to take a look at it. Maybe I'll learn something. Maybe I'll learn how to do things a little bit better in the future and get a little bit better at the deck. Because, you know, I can always improve. I'm definitely not a Reasoning Gate master. There's a lot to this deck that I could definitely improve on. So the deck, though, very powerful. Very happy that it carried me through this. Anyway, looking at the deck here, I think I registered this exact same 55 for the Slifer. This is not what I would be going with in the future. In fact, for the Obelisk, I did register a quite a bit different side, with some changes in the main as well. So after the Slifer, I just kind of got excited and signed up for a Raw and immediately submitted the same deck list. So going forward, I've actually cut the Lightning Vortex from the main. I do like this card in this deck. I think Machine Gate is probably the best Lightning Vortex deck, but I think there are better things you can be playing here. I'm actually back on United We Stand. That card's been performing pretty well for me, so I would probably cut this to add a United We Stand to the main deck. You could find room for all kinds of other cards as well. I think Swords could be good in the main, Card Destruction maybe somewhere. I didn't really like Card Destruction when I played with it, but it's totally fine in this deck for sure. The side, I've actually cut Messenger of Peace completely and gotten Swords of Revealing Light in the side, and I think that's been a very welcome addition. And I've also cut Threatening Roars going forward. I had these in the Slifer because I knew some of the people in that tournament, and deck lists are not set during that, so I can actually change things in and out, and I thought Threatening Roar might be good against some of the players in that. However, in the Raw, your deck lists are set, so I don't know. I just kind of, like I said, submitted the same deck list that I had for the Slifer, I believe, because I just submitted it right after I won the Slifer. But yeah, definitely would make some changes going forward, but don't want to get too far into like the inner workings of this list, because I went in depth a little bit more in the Slifer video. I'll link that down in the description for you all to check out if you want to, but we've got more matches than we did in the Slifer. The Slifer was only 3. Here we have to cover 5. So I'm going to go ahead and get into those matches. This is probably just going to be a long video. Here we are with our first match. I believe this is the one that I played probably the worst here. We'll definitely see that whenever we get to game 2. But playing against Go Trinity, this is definitely a good player. I was kind of expecting Chaos Turbo, and that's not exactly what we see here. We see Go Trinity is on 41 cards, so that would kind of tip me off that it's probably not Turbo, right? The hallmark of Turbo is to be as consistent as possible, so pretty good hand here. We've got a Reasoning, a Monster Gate, a Meta. We get to see more cards with the Jar of Greed and the Reckless Greed. The Blowback Dragon kind of sucks, but, you know, that's fine. We just set our cards, pass the turn. Not really much else to do here. Unfortunately, we do see a Donald Zalug come down, and of course that is going to connect. Even though I do have a Reasoning and a Monster Gate in hand, I decided it's probably not worth it to flip the Jar of Greed here. Maybe we draw into like a Scapegoat, which would be very good for us here. And the opponent, like, it's a 25 chance, or I guess a 50-50. I'm fine with losing the meta. I'm fine with losing the blowback, so we'll just leave it at a 50-50 here. You could argue maybe I was supposed to flip Jar of Greed. I'm definitely not supposed to flip Reckless Greed. So we do lose the blowback, which is the worst card in our hand. So we're pretty happy about that. Draw into Ring of Destruction, which is totally fine. Like, that can take out the Donzalug, maybe stem the bleeding a little bit if we don't find anything off of our Jar of Greed. Jog draws Premature Burial, which is also very good here. Because our Blowback Dragon was discarded, we could get back the Blowback, potentially blow up the back row, attack over the Donzalug. And I'm going to go ahead and Reckless Greed here. Believe the reasoning here, haha, reasoning, is because if I draw into Giant Trunade, then that's really good. I can Prima back the Blowback Dragon, try to blow up the Donzalug, reasoning into something. If I do hit Stein, then that's awesome. I have Monster Gate for that. Yeah, just a lot of really good options to try to win the game here, especially with the Ring of Destruction. So just going to go for the Reckless Greed. And like my hand's already really good, right? I don't, even if I have to like take 2 turns off of drawing, it's not hurting me too much, especially since I'm going to see 2 more cards here. I say 2 a lot. Draw into Jar of Greed and Facilier. Facilier is actually pretty good. We can meta that off for King Dragoon, Labyrinth Tank, whatever we need to do here. I have to throw down Reasoning rather than playing the Premature Burial. Here, kind of fishing for a little bit of information, I guess. If the opponent calls 2, that's fine. I have the option to get into Jinzo, and then my Premature Burial and all of my other plays are likely covered. Maybe you could say I'm supposed to Premature Burial first, but I don't know. I think this is totally fine to go ahead and Reasoning. If this is an MST, it's going to stop the Prima no matter what, but Reasoning giving me the chance to get into Jinzo when I don't have the Heavy Storm or the Giant Trunade, I think makes a whole lot of sense. So opponent calls 4. They don't know that we are on machines, which is awesome. So we hit no matter what. We go into another Facilier, which is also totally fine. Just big beater. And I think here I want to just play Premature Burial, try to snipe the back row at this point. Yeah. If it's MST, it's MST. Like, that's fine. Now I can summon my Facilier. I can Monster Gate it, try to get into a Stein or something a little bit bigger. Or I can meta it off. Probably go for the Monster Gate at that point. But Premature Burial is going to work out and get Blowback Dragon, which, you know, Blowback Dragon never flips heads, but here we go. We try to get rid of this back row here. We flip a Tails. We flip a Tails. Awesome. Blowback Dragon, just the best card ever. I am going to Monster Gate off the Facilier. I think this makes a whole lot of sense. Try to get into a Stein, maybe Jinzo here. Jinzo would still be excellent. It would take me off of my ring. But I could actually just like attack him with all of these, meta off the Jinzo, because it would be 1,000, 3,800, 60, 100. Yeah, and then I could just meta into Ryu Senji, and my ring would be totally live. So Jinzo, probably the best hit here. Cyberstein also good. Demok also, I mean, excellent. We do have the Heavy Storm and a Giant Trunade, so probably just grab the Giant Trunade to try to play around the Mirror Force, Saku, whatever. We do see that it is a Saku. We know it's not a chainable because they likely would have chained it to the Blowback Dragon. So yeah, Trunade going to clean up the game here. I was very happy to take my first game of the Raw. Now we get into game 2 where, spoilers, I think I threw this game. It wasn't obvious to me at the time, but this is my second time watching it back. I had already recorded this video and the audio didn't work by the time I got to editing. But here we are. We lose the Royal Decree. I'm going to discard Blowback Dragon, of course. Facilier with Metamorphosis is good. Pot of Greed is Pot of Greed. Opponent sets a bunch of cards. I'm just going to lead on Pot of Greed here. I don't hate it. Definitely not going to Giant Trunade. I don't really have any other play. Monster Gate Reasoning. Just fantastic. There is... opponent's at 7,000. Without a limiter removal, it's pretty hard to actually win the game here. But it's definitely possible. I'm going to just go for a sort of a mid-ground play. Not use up my Giant Trunade. And basically here I'm saying if the opponent has Torrential or Mirror Force, that's totally fine. But if they have just targeted removal, I'm going to go for King Dragoon. And I'm going to save my Monster Gate and my Reasoning with the Giant Trunade for later. The opponent does have Torrential, so this is fine. They lose their Moth, which was going to be trained on a Delinquent Duo, so I'm actually pretty happy to see that go. I'm okay with that trade. The opponent just has a Sangan here, so we're not taking a whole bunch of damage. I draw Lightning Vortex. That's not doing anything. I just opt to pass the turn. That's fine. If they have another monster that can attack alongside the Sangan, I'm likely out of Stein range, but that's okay. I don't think I'm supposed to throw off the Reasoning or the Monster Gate that turn. Just kind of building up to maybe draw into another Reasoning. or something like that. And I believe I saw the Donzalug last time. I'm pretty sure I sided in a way that was, I think I only have one Stein left in the deck. I think I took one out. I might be wrong about that. I'm not completely sure, but I do draw the second reasoning. So there's a good chance that we can do some big things here. I am going to go for it now. Now I'm at 4,200. The opponent only needs a 1,400 attack monster to take me out on the next turn. So this is kind of like, you know, got to go for it. I play Reasoning. The opponent calls 8. I get Facilier. Awesome. I Reasoning again. The opponent calls 8. I get Stein, which obviously is dead. Unfortunately, if I had 900 more life points, then the opponent's probably just giga dead here. But I Monster Gate off the Stein. Now I hit Demok. Excellent. Here's where I mess up. Let's take a look at the cards in the graveyard. So this Monster Gate is also counted in there. I can meta for Gatling Dragon. That's totally fine play. I can get a Reasoning, try to dig a little bit more, but both of my 7s are here. The 8's already here. The opponent probably calls 6, and I'm probably just going to go into Jinzo, and it's going to go right to the graveyard. I can Premature Burial for a Blowback Dragon or a Facilier. That's pretty good. What I don't consider here is Snatch Steal. So I could Snatch Steal the Kaiku, and I'm not getting in a lethal attack here, but I can get the light out of the opponent's graveyard. Now, we see here that the opponent does have a Sasuke in hand, which they can crash into Facilier, but if I snatch this Kaiku and I Demok over the Sangan, this is banished, of course. They don't get the effect. Now they don't even have a dark in the graveyard, so they take 1,800, 4,600, 6,400. They're at 600. I have control over their Kaiku. I guess they run the Sasuke into the Kaiku, which means they only take, well, they crash. Actually, I guess they get Dark Light then, don't they? Yeah, but so if they have a Chaos monster at that point, they have to do it in main 2. So if it's BLS, they can't attack over both of my things. And then I lose one of them, but then I can Lightning Vortex, take out the BLS, and have a game shot there. Just make sure I'm doing this math right. 18, 46, 64. Yeah, the opponent would be at 600. They would be at 400 here. So basically barring a back row, and we see here they only have MST, we're fine. We actually win this game, but I just did not cross my mind to get the Snatch Steal here and go for a non-winning line. So I grabbed the Pot of Greed to try to draw into like a limiter removal so that I can win this turn. So it's not like this is necessarily bad. And now I do have full information, but there's also another play here that makes me think that maybe I could have done something a little bit different even past this. But I grabbed the Pot of Greed. I'm wanting to draw into limiter removal plus any other card so that I can just Lightning Vortex, kill the opponent right here. It doesn't work out. I attack over the Sangan. The opponent takes 18, and they, like you can see, no Facilier attack. They just put their Kaiku in the graveyard, which is a sneaky little play. That does sort of coerce me into attacking a little bit. I sit here, like, I haven't clicked attack with a Facilier. I actually think, I'm like, what if they have a Chaos monster? Do I attack this? The reasoning that I got to was they can just crash the Kaiku into the Facilier. They can get their Chaos monster anyway. And then I have backup with Mirror Force Lightning Vortex. However, what I didn't consider was BLS can just come down, attack these, and I lose. Well, I do have the Mirror Force, of course, so I guess I do have protection against the BLS, but if they have a Heavy Storm or an MST, we do see they have an MST, or like even a Breaker, then they can just get through that. So I think once I get to this position, I probably don't attack the Kaiku. I make the opponent attack into the Facilier because it's the same amount of damage, right? So, and then they go into main phase 2, and then even if it is BLS, they still only get to take one of my monsters out. And then I at least get to keep something, and I don't have to use the Mirror Force. I can just Lightning Vortex away the BLS and have the Mirror Force for later in case things go wrong. But I think yeah, definitely layers of incorrect decisions here. I think, given the information and how I've looked over this after the fact, I think I was probably supposed to get the Snatch Steal off of the Demock, take the Kaiku, and set myself up to win that way, instead of going with... I don't know if it's greedy, but it's a little bit less consistent of a line to get the Pot of Greed. If I hit the limiter removal, cool, I win. If I don't hit the limiter removal, it looks like I'm still in a good position, but not knowing what's in the opponent's hand. But the opponent goes to 4,200. I set my Mirror Force. They draw into a Saku, which makes things even worse. I guess I could tribute for Jinzo, but lose the Mirror Force here. They do have exactly BLS. They attack over my monsters. I'm not dead, so like I have a Lightning Vortex to clear the board, so I'm not completely out of this, but I think I would be in a much, much, much better position if I just put my opponent to 400, taking the light out of their graveyard. They summon the BLS, and then I Lightning Vortex and tribute for Jinzo and win over the Saku. So yeah, I definitely had a win here. I just did not get there. I Lightning Vortex, I pitched the Metamorphosis. I think that's totally fine. If you look at the graveyard, I only have one Scapegoat left, whereas I should still have Brain Control in the deck here to go with the Jinzo if the opponent finds a monster that's not a Blade Knight or something with 2,000 attack. I could also end up... No, Facilier's gone. Yeah, I could also draw into a Reasoning, potentially. No, all of my monsters are gone. Maybe I was supposed to keep the meta as well. Yeah, probably. Maybe I do have the other Stein in the deck. I'm not sure. But I opt to keep the Jinzo. The opponent draws into King Tiger, so I guess like meta wouldn't have done anything anyway, right? And there's the limiter removal I needed. But yeah, gonna lose this game. Probably should have won it and just started out with a win here in the Raw, but sometimes you mess up. Going to game 3. This is a pretty good hand. I don't really like seeing the Demock, but we can get it to the graveyard with Raigeki Break. Can never really complain when you have a Pot of Greed, especially with a Monster Gate, drawing a Scapegoat and Royal Decree. Awesome. We see over here the opponent has a Sura Priest and King Tiger. We do know about King Tiger in their deck, so we could just activate Scapegoat. I opt not to because I have a Raigeki Break, and I think that's totally fine. We'll just play around, you know, the opponent having Tribe. But they do just go ahead and summon out the King Tiger. They do not have a Heavy Storm to follow it up, so I'm pretty happy about that. I've got Snatch Steal. I can take it and Monster Gate it. That's pretty good. Yeah, so I'm actually going to flip the Royal Decree here to take them off of Dust Tornado, which they do have Dust Tornado. That's pretty good. But we see here they also have Book of Moon, which is going to be really, really bad for me, especially now that I draw the Mirror Force. So I throw down the Snatch Steal. They show Book of Moon, and immediately I'm just like, oh no, the Decree. This is so bad. So I flip the Scapegoat here because I have to. I mean, I'm in a really bad position, I think. Though next turn I can Monster Gate. If I don't, as long as I don't hit Stein, things are okay. I set my Raigeki Break in case the opponent has a Breaker or something for this Royal Decree. But the opponent summons a Sura Priest, and things go bad really quickly. I was not very happy whenever I saw the Asura Priest, that is for sure. King Tiger gets on in for 1,700. I need an out right here. I draw another Royal Decree, and man, that is not the out I needed. So I just passed the turn. Opponent opts to not summon a Asura Priest here. That makes sense. They go into Kaiku. We're going to take a whole bunch of damage. I need a way to get rid of Decree, honestly. And I draw Graceful Charity. I'm like, okay, that's a good start. I'm going to go ahead and throw that down. I draw Premature Burial, so now I can ditch the Demock, and I can get it back with Prima. And now I have an answer to both of these, and I get to keep my Decree. So that's pretty good. I can get Snatch Steal here if I want. I can get Pot of Greed. Probably not getting the Scapegoat. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I end up ditching Blowback Dragon and Demock. And gonna get the Demock back. Oh, I guess I can just get the Graceful Charity back. I should probably do that, right? I do get Graceful Charity. That makes a whole lot of sense. So, Snatch Steal. I mean, looking at the hand, Snatch Steal does look pretty good here. But there's not a good chance that I win. So I'm just going to grab the Graceful. I don't hate this. Maybe I get into True Nade so that I can bounce my Decree and then set my protective traps. Whereas Snatch Steal, I don't know. The opponent pretty... Well, maybe they wouldn't have MST'd or used a Breaker on the Royal Decree here because it's actually kind of helping them before this turn happened. Yeah, I think I'm okay with the Graceful over the Snatch Steal. But I think you can make an argument for Snatch Steal. I draw Heavy Storm, which is actually pretty good alongside a Reasoning. So there's a chance I can do some good things here. I get rid of the Jinzo. That's fine, because I've got double Decree and I've got the Mirror Force. Okay, I don't hate this. I could play Reasoning first. The opponent's probably just going to call 7 here, is the problem, because they see both 6s. They know Cyberstein's not good. But yeah, I do play the Reasoning just in case, you know, they make a mistake here. But they do call the 7. We hit Facilier, of course. And I'm going to meta off this Demock. I guess just to go for something a little bit bigger here. So had I kept the Snatch Steal... Maybe I was supposed to Snatch. I'm feeling pretty good sitting behind a Mirror Force here. If I Heavy Storm... Then I lose my Raigeki Break. There are a lot of different ways I could have gone with this, I suppose. Activate Gatling Dragon, and we see the saddest Gatling Dragon of all time. So yeah, had I grabbed Snatch Steal here, like I could have taken the King Tiger or the Kaiku, sacked it off for Jinzo, and then I would have another monster here, so it makes it less likely that I die. But I don't know. The Graceful Charity looks so good there. I just set all my back row. My opponent goes and grabs an Exiled Force. Cool. They take out the Gatling Dragon. Kaiku comes in. I get rid of that with Mirror Force, but things look very, very bad. I draw Giant True Nade. Things look even worse now. I have no interaction. And the opponent summons a Sura Priest, and they take me out. So I actually lose the first round, but like I said, this is double elimination. I definitely should have won this one. I should have won game 2. Game 3... even if I had gone for Snatch Steal into Jinzo, the opponent just sets Spirit Reaper. They've got a Book of Moon over here, we see. It probably wouldn't have worked out either way, but I don't hate getting the Graceful Charity there. I think Graceful Charity is just a very powerful card, obviously, right? I think that was totally fine. The Snatch Steal would have been good, but I think the Graceful Charity is also a good choice there. So I definitely threw game 2, but good to learn from. Good to know this stuff, you know, in the future to improve. But yeah, let's move on to the second match. Match number 2. I know I'm playing against Warriors here because at this point I've looked at the replays the replays are all publicly available for the Raw. So you kind of know like what you're playing against, especially since deck lists are submitted and can't be changed. So not thrilled to be playing against Warrior, of course. But it's definitely a winnable matchup, especially with 3 Giant True Nade, I guess. It's not really what I want to see. Would love for there to be a little bit more diversity. I'm okay with double Giant True Nade because it just beats the crap out of Solemn Judgment. But 3 Giant True Nade, generally a bit too much. I'm going to set one of them. I'm okay with that. If the opponent wants to summon out a Breaker, take care of it. That's fine, whatever. I've got more to back it up. And maybe the opponent, like, you know, this didn't go through my mind, but I'm just thinking of it now. Maybe the opponent summons Breaker, breaks this, and then doesn't think I have 2 in hand. So maybe it even baits them into using the Solemn Judgment a little bit more here. But opponent attacks in with a Sasuke. We take the 1800. That's fine. They set their whole hand. I'm like, oh, well, if we can bait out a Solemn Judgment here, we are golden. So I'm going to try it. I flip up my Giant True Nade. They don't activate the Solemn Judgment. I'm also okay with that. I've got double Monster Gate here. I'm just going to go ahead and throw down the Stein. I grab Master of Oz. Pretty good chance that I can win here. We mill into Jinzo. Love that. I guess... No, I just lose a Snatch Steal, don't I? Yeah, am I missing something? I could Monster Gate this off. Try to hit Demock here. This is a very aggressive line. Basically, what I'm thinking here is my Stein's going to be dead next turn. My opponent didn't interact at all whenever I Giant Truenated, so I'm just going to try to get in as much damage as possible here. If they have Snatch Steal, they have Snatch Steal. I'll lose. That's fine. If I hit Demock, there's a good chance I just win on the spot. So, yeah, I understand the risk behind this, but there's also, like, the opponent doesn't have any monsters. So, yeah, this is all right. I could Monster Gate off the Master of Oz, actually. Try to get into something else, potentially, so that I don't die to Snatch Steal, but yeah, I'm just going to set a Giant Trunade. Having Jinzo here is actually pretty nice, because, like, now all of their back row can't even be chained to Giant Trunade, so now I'm worried about Book of Moon, pretty much. They summon out Exiled Force, take care of Master of Oz. That's fine. They're not dead now, but draw Heavy Storm. I kind of wish I hadn't set the Giant Trunade now. I probably didn't need to, honestly, but I was like, I've got this extra one in hand. I think it's totally fine. If they want to utilize a resource to destroy it, that's cool. Maybe they think it's a bluff. Sometimes RGT does play Mirror Force in the main or something like that. So if something happens to both of my monsters, maybe they don't attack. Who knows? But I am going to throw down the Heavy Storm. Like I said, I've got this other Giant Trunade in hand. I don't mind losing the Trunade here where my opponent loses everything. And outside of like a Book of Moon or whatever, they can't chain it to Jinzo. But if they do have the Book of Moon there and they chain it to flip Jinzo down, that's fine. I can still flip the Jinzo back up. Whereas if I just attack, of course, they can activate the Book of Moon. I can't flip the Jinzo back up. So Heavy Storm looks good there. I set both now. The reason for this is I'm not really scared of what the opponent has in hand. Like I know this is not a monster. I don't know what it is, but I know it's not a monster. So I'm not scared of really any monster that they could rip here. DD Warrior Lady is not good enough. They could set it or whatever. So yeah, I'm fine with this. Like, they're not going to... MST is gone. If they Heavy Storm, that gives me the information that, you know, they just don't have a monster. But, like, I already know that. They draw into Graceful Charity. I don't know. Maybe I'm just setting cards for no reason here. Yeah, because, like, they can't even duo. I could just set one to play around Trap Dust Shoot, but Jinzo's already here. Maybe I am just setting cards. Like I said, there are definitely spots in this where I did not play optimally, but we're going to get there. I don't think that decision is like anything huge, obviously, but I don't know. Maybe it was just a little bit unnecessary, and that's something small to think about moving forward. Just don't set cards when I don't need to. Okay. Pretty good hand here. We really, really want a Giant Trunade or a Heavy Storm. I say that a lot when playing this deck. Turns out pushing your combo through is important. We don't find either of those, but I'm just going to throw down a Reasoning. I think this is totally fine. The opponent didn't summon a monster, which doesn't mean they don't have one. Sometimes Warrior doesn't do that. If I hit Jinzo here, that's fantastic. Like, if I hit Jinzo here, I probably win the game outside of Book of Moon. So, they call 2, and I definitely did side out a Cyberstein for this match. So we are going to hit here. Blowback Dragon's pretty good. They flip the Torrential immediately, but I get the chance to use Prio, so obviously going to target the other one. I don't think Blowback actually works here. There's a Heads. There's a Tails. And yep, Tails. Blowback Dragon, the worst card in Go format, confirmed. Activate Messenger of Peace. They've got a Dust Tornado for it. That's fine. Looks like Book of Moon, from what we know, is the only interactive piece here, but they go for Donzalug. Not excited about that. I'm really hoping they hit the Metamorphosis, obviously. They hit the Stein, which is the card I wanted to keep the most. And now I draw the Heavy Storm. So, a little bit, you know, unfortunate circumstances. This also shows a little bit why I don't like Messenger of Peace as much in the deck anymore. It doesn't stop stuff like Donzalug or Spirit Reaper from attacking in. And those are honestly like the most critical ones that you want to stop. So that's kind of why I've gone away from that card. I try to brain control the Donzalug. The opponent flips Book of Moon, and I'm just like, this is not good. I wanted to get an attack in and then meta it off into Darkfire Dragon, but no such luck. The opponent goes into a Asura Priest. We're down to 4,100. I draw Torrential, which is actually pretty good. Just gonna set that. If the opponent summons another monster, yep, we'll just eat that with Torrential. So, like, I mean, I've got limiter removal. I've got meta. This is not over. I draw into another limiter removal. Now I set it, and I do like this set because that plays around the opponent throwing off a delinquent duo, because like they're at 9,000. They're going to duo. If they draw one, there's no reason, like there would be no other way they would get any more value out of that. They draw MST, and they summon Sasuke and attack. That's fine. I just need to find a monster here. They set the MST. I draw a meta. Okay. I pass the turn. Maybe they play around Mirror Force, and they do. They just attack with the Sasuke, so one more turn to draw something, Jinzo. That's not going to do it. So, unfortunately, we lose game 2. I had double limiter, so, like, there was a good chance if I draw into something, I could make something happen there, but didn't get there. Love this hand in game 3. Drawing the blowback is not great, but Upstart Goblin into another limiter is very, very good. So I'm just going to pass the turn. There's no reason to set Facilier here. If I draw another limiter removal, Facilier is actually, what is it, 11,200 attack, I think. If I draw into a Monster Gate, I want the Facilier in case the reasoning fails, and I can just take a hit on turn 1. Like, I don't know, if they summon a Donzalug, it sucks, but I'm not stopping it anyway, right? So, yeah, they attack with a Sur Priest, and I'm like, oh, yes. This monster goes back to hand. This is going to leave an open field. So I need them to not have Solemn Judgment here. They set 2 back row, which doesn't necessarily signal that they don't have Solemn Judgment, but I mean, we're going for it here. Yeah. Slam down the Giant Trunade. They get to draw off a Jar of Greed. Cool. I need them to not call this reasoning correctly. They call 2. I only have 1 Cyberstein in the deck, so decent chance this works out. I hit D-Mock, which is just awesome. What do we have here? We can meta for Gatling Dragon and just do that. We could also Monster Gate. You know, the world is our oyster here, right? Let's see what I decide to meta. We'll finish this one off the cool way. Summon Facilier. Oh, am I going for... I'm going for the really cool way. We'll go for Labyrinth Tank here. I think... No, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, this is totally fine. Either way, we can't really play around the Kuriboh too well here. Opponent says unlucky. They're going to take a bunch of damage here. They're going to show their cards, but we are going to pick up the second match. So, yeah, 1-1. Should have been 2-0. Well, I guess actually we wouldn't have gotten paired against this person. So, you never know if it would have been 2-0 or not. But, yeah, moving on to the next one. All right, we got match number 3 here. We're playing against Goat Trinity again. So Goat Trinity has also dropped down to the lower bracket. We're actually going to see some adjustments that I made from the information that I gained from the first match. So felt pretty cool about that. I don't know if any of them actually end up mattering, but got a pretty good hand here. Facilier makes it even better because now we have something to make our Monster Gate work. If the reasoning fails, opponent has a nice little Spear Reaper here. I think I'm actually just going to set Jar of Greed, set Ring. Yeah. Sometimes I don't set the Ring immediately, but I believe I remember that my opponent is on Spirit Reaper, or I've at least seen it in some of the replays. So I'm going to try to play around the Reaper potential here. And the opponent summons out Breaker. I'm like, okay, no need to activate the Ring immediately. Hoping that they hit the Jar of Greed, and they do. So just get a draw here. Megamorph, not bad. They flip up Spirit Reaper, so I'm very happy that they hit the Jar of Greed with the Breaker. We won the 50-50 there. I'm going to flip up the Ring on the Spirit Reaper. Take that out. Awesome. Opponent sets another back row. We see it's a bluff with a knock. I don't hate that. Ew, they just have a Call the Haunted over here too, so nothing amazing going on for them. Draw another limiter. Currently, this Facilier... 28, yeah, Facilier attack is lethal here. So we've got a few things we could do. We probably want a reasoning first to try to hit Jinzo or D-Mock, but we can just summon Facilier, like Megamorph it and attack. Maybe the opponent thinks we're just trying to get in a value attack for a little bit of damage. They let it go through because we would need double limiter removal to actually kill them. So if they don't have a battle trap, maybe they just don't use it there. There's a good chance they do, but sometimes when your back's against the wall, you can make some tricky little plays like that. But I'm going to lead on reasoning. Yep, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. The opponent does call 2. We hit another Facilier, so now I don't even need to Megamorph. I can just attack, and this is even less telegraphed here, right? Because now this does just look like I'm attacking for 1200. And I think that's what I decide to do. Not even going to summon out the other guy. Yeah. Just attack. The opponent gives me the thumbs up. I'm like, damage step? Here's a limiter, here's a limiter. Goodbye. We'll go to game 2. And here, I'm hoping, let's not throw game 2 again. Maybe we can get some revenge here on Goat Trinity. Does lead on Graceful Charity, which is pretty good. We see a Sur Priest over here. That's going to be irrelevant here in a little bit. I do have Scapegoat, of course. They discard Brain Control and Premature Burial. Okay. That is a pretty good hand over there for them. I like my hand, though. Double Reasoning, very good. Scapegoat with a meta, awesome. Get to see more cards with Upstart Goblin. Draw another Scapegoat, which I'm not upset by, but it's not incredible. But Upstart Goblin draws Pot of Greed 100% of the time. And now I draw a giant True Nade, and I've got a limiter. I'm like, oh, this is very good. So I'm going to set double Scapegoat just in case there is an MST or a Dust over here. I don't hate that. MST is very important. Scapegoat is very important because this could be a Spirit Reaper. We see the opponent does draw Spirit Reaper. And if we get into another Monster Gate, that's great. And with the double reasoning, even though the opponent's calling 2, maybe they're in a position where they have to call a 6 or something like that. And if we get into a Stein, I really want to protect my life points. So I think it's totally fine to just set both of these. The opponent's very likely to not Heavy Storm unless they set like Jar of Greed Storm. But they summon out Spirit Reaper. They flip up a Sur Priest. I'm just like, no. Please, no. They attack with Reaper, and I activate Scapegoat, and I immediately know that I made a mistake here. This is just a wasted Scapegoat. So the way that replay works in Yu-Gi-Oh! Has changed in the future. So since the opponent attacked with Spirit Reaper, in future versions of Yu-Gi-Oh!, the opponent would, for the replay, would have to attack with Spirit Reaper next, or they would just lose their Spirit Reaper attack. That is not how it works in GOAT format. In GOAT format, basically this attack just never happened. They could attack all of these with a Sur Priest and then attack in with a Spirit Reaper anyway, even though they switched up the order of the attacks. So this is literally just a wasted Scapegoat. I should have just taken the attack, taken the 2K, been done with it. But activate the Scapegoat. Like I said, I knew immediately that this was really stupid. But the opponent, for whatever reason, decides to not attack with the Spirit Reaper. So I got bailed out a little bit there. Pretty happy about that, obviously. And now they've got a Spirit Reaper face up. And I've got this giant True Nade with double reasoning. I've got a limiter removal. I'm like, you know, this is fine. I think, yeah, we just go for it here. They Book of Moon the Spirit Reaper, which is quite annoying, actually. But I think I want to throw down at least one reasoning. Try to get into, like, maybe we get into Blowback Dragon. If that's the case, I'll play out the second reasoning. I think it's totally fine to use one here. I get into Facilier. The opponent did call 6, so they are acknowledging that Blowback Dragon is a problem. Now I could play the second reasoning. Maybe they call 6 again. They could call 2 at this point. It's kind of tough. I could also just go into King Dragoon and set Royal Decree. At least try to get this face up. So at some point, maybe I draw into Snatch Steal, Brain Control, something like that. Oh, you do see the Threatening Roar here. This is one of the adjustments that I made. I noticed that the opponent had, Spirit Reaper, Dawn Zalug, stuff like that. Everything was just getting under the Messenger piece. So I think I didn't bring in any Messenger pieces. I actually brought in one Threatening Roar. Normally I don't bring it in against the aggro matchups, especially now that I play swords in the deck, but I thought that was an adjustment that was kind of worth making here. But yeah, I don't play out the other reasoning. I attack into the Spirit Reaper, just get it face up. I like that. Do I want to meta here? It appears not. Okay. I'm also fine with that. Like, we know one of the other cards in their hand is a Sura Priest. It can't attack over Facilier. I've got Scapegoat, so yeah, maybe we wait till the opponent does get something in attack position, and we're able to flip Royal Decree and kind of reasoning limiter removal from there. I don't hate it. We also have potential meta with Scapegoat for Tear. The opponent's Snatch Steals here. Going into King Dragoon would have helped with that a lot, but that's okay. And then they Rhoda, and I'm like, ooh, this means they're not going to summon a Sura Priest. They go for Dawn Zalug. I guess they're thinking I probably just don't have another Scapegoat, which I don't blame them. 2 of them are already in the graveyard, so it's very unlikely that I have one. But I do, and of course going to activate it here. The opponent correctly attacked with Spirit Reaper. Spirit Reaper or Dawn Zalug would have been the correct attack here. And so they take out 3 of my goats. I've got meta. I can take this Facilier actually and start doing some good damage. We flip the Decree here, which is very good. I draw another meta. I'm going to gain 1,000 here, and I do opt to meta. Go into Tear, and I think about it for a second. I'm like, you know, I could take something that's not Facilier, and I could just sit here and gain a bunch of life every turn. That's pretty cool. But also, if I just take this, it attacks for 2,500 over Spirit Reaper every turn because it can't switch battle positions with Tear on the board. So this is just a 4-turn clock in itself. And I have Reasoning and Limiter Removal still as backup, so I'm pretty okay with this. We'll actually see that drawing second Metamorphosis is very critical here, because they do have the Book of Moon under the Royal Decree. So now just meta off the Tear, grabbing another Tear. You'll see that I'm talking about it's not giving me the card. In Go format, of course, you have access to 3 of every fusion monster in the fusion deck, but Dueling Book did some update at this point to where if you were searching for the monster, you didn't have the 3 copies already in there, it wouldn't give it to you. So Splevin just said to use some tokens. So that's what I do. I find this cute little Kuriboh token. We take the Facilier. And I'm just going to proceed to attack over Spirit Reaper. Opponent takes 2,500. Cool. We need to get the Snatch Steal off the board, but whatever. That's kind of irrelevant. I draw Brain Control. Cool. Attack over Spirit Reaper again. The opponent goes to 4,000. They draw into a useless Blade Knight. Cool. Now I've got Monster Gate. So, like, if something happens here, I'm at 9,000. I guess, like, if they take this out, they are getting in with a Spirit Reaper and a Dawn Zalug, so maybe I don't have all of this backup anymore. But I Reasoning. And the reasoning for this is now I can just win the game. Like, this is very clearly something that's being locked down that's not doing any good. So if I get into really anything, then I can Monster Gate off the Thousand Eyes Restrict. With the limiter removal, I'll be able to take out the Spirit Reaper and just win the game here. So the opponent calls 8, hit Blowback Dragon. Awesome. I can go after the back row just to be safe here. Blowback Dragon probably the best hit, since the opponent did call 8. Yep, immediately 2 heads. Finally, Blowback Dragon did something in this video. We take out the Saku. Let's get rid of the Tear. Pretty much anything wins here. Yeah, Facilier, come on down. We get our revenge on Goat Trinity. Nice little win here. Love to see double Metamorphosis action. This is why I love 3 copies of meta in the deck. It can brick sometimes, but so can, like, the rest of the deck. But meta, it's just so powerful, so versatile. It gives you so much, like, so many other plays outside of just big machine OTK. Big fan of it. The amount of times I've gone Tear into Tear, or Demok into Gatling, or even like Gatling into Gatling. I've summoned multiple King Dragoons sometimes. Also, meta just really good in the mirror. You just draw a Facilier and all of a sudden it's a threat because meta can go into Last Warrior. Love that card. Anyway, we beat Goat Trinity here. So yeah, on to the finals. Here we are with the finals match. Coming from the loser's bracket, I do have to win 2 full matches in a row to actually take this down. It's not the position that you really want to be in, but I guess that's the position I deserve for throwing a match. I'm pretty happy knowing that my opponent is on turbo. I think it's a much better matchup than all of the warrior decks that I've had to fight through so far to get to this point. However, when I'm going over replays to see the cards that I need to play around, it looks like this opponent has an absolutely massive side deck for me. We're seeing like a full control package coming in with multiple solemns and battle traps. I didn't see any Jougans or spell cancelers or anything like that, but it looks like the opponent is siding in close to almost an entire side deck. That would be good against my deck. So it's good to know all of that, obviously. There's sort of a give and take with like open deck lists. The deck lists aren't open, but you can gain a lot from replays as far as information goes. It's cool to have that information because then both players sort of like know what's going on and both players can make adjustments. But now my opponent's not able to surprise me with a gigantic side, and I know what's coming and I can make the adjustments that I think I need to, which is to side a lot more cards than I usually do against Chaos Turbo and just be prepared for everything that they are bringing against me. That helped me out a lot, I think. But yeah, let's get into the match here. I was very not happy whenever I saw all of the cards that the opponent had for me. I messaged all 2 of my friends and I'm like, there's no way. I am not winning this. I cannot win 2 matches in a row, and I have to win game 1, I think, to have a shot here. I open up a pretty good hand, so I'm excited about that. I'm just going to pass the turn. No reason to set anything. I guess I could set meta, but maybe I've learned from my mistake in the past in this video of just setting cards with that don't matter. Now, I can protect against Delinquent Duo, potentially. Just gives me another card that I can discard here. And I think that's why I ended up leaving it in hand. We do see the opponent has Delinquent Duo. They're going to go ahead and throw that down. Really hoping to keep my reasoning. They discard meta, so hey, it worked out. I'm going to get rid of Snatch Steal. I thought I was being big brain here. Snatch Steal and Brain Control are pretty comparable. They both kind of aren't amazing in the Turbo matchup. I was thinking probably like way too far ahead. Obviously, Snatch Steal is a better card than Brain Control. But I'm thinking, you know, maybe the opponent ends up summoning a Chaos Monster or something that I need to take. And Brain Control can play around MST. Whereas, like, the rest of this hand doesn't care about MST, so I'm just making that card completely dead. And if my opponent puts something face up, I can guaranteed take it and then kill them with Reasoning and double limiter removal. So I had a reason for this. I don't know. Snatch Steal is just such a more powerful card, but I get why I kept the Brain Control. It's not going to end up mattering, but this is an interesting decision that I'm not totally sure about there. Just given that I did get rid of the more powerful card. The opponent just does the whole Chaos Turbo T-set. They do activate Trap Dust Shoot here, and I'm very happy about that. So now, if I can get something to take out this face-down monster somehow, we are good to go. Graceful Charity is a Monster Gate, a Jar, and a Facilier, so that's pretty good. I could opt to try to go in here. If I hit Stein off of Reasoning or Monster Gate, it's really, really good. Demok also very good. Blowback Dragon also very good. There's a real chance that I could just win this turn. Would require discarding Brain Control, Jar of Greed. I think that's totally fine. I think that's actually the play I make. Yeah, I'm just going to try to win here on this turn. If this isn't Spy, then Facilier attacks over it. I get in with the other monster that I get from Reasoning. I guess like if I get something for Reasoning, then I could just Monster Gate this off, and then the only thing I have to worry about is Night Assailant. But yeah, go for Reasoning first. The opponent calls 6, so I guess they're playing around the Blowback Dragon here. We mill a whole bunch of cards. We keep milling, hit a Jinzo. I'm like, okay, sure, Jinzo's totally fine. No, Jinzo's not fine, because they called 6, right. So yeah, I'm just going to pass the turn. I like this. Make them put a monster face up. If all they set turn 1 was Trap Dust Shoot, I'm also reading that they probably don't have much in the way of interaction, because they probably would have set more. We see that they draw Torrential now, which is great interaction, but they do flip up the Deco. That's fine. They draw into a Spy. They attack for 14. If I draw a Heavy Storm or Giant Trunade here, I'm clear to go. I do draw a Giant Trunade because I guess, I don't know. Just goated at top decks at the time. I was very, very happy to see Giant Trunade. It's basically guaranteed that I win here, because even if I hit Demok off of this, I can just get meta, make it a Gatling Dragon, double limiter, attack over the deco. So we Giant Trunade, no second Trap Dust Shoot. We're going to Monster Gate here, hit Stein, just extra bonus points. Go into Gatling Dragon, and I'm just going to double limiter and attack over the deco. No reason to activate. Like, I know what's in their deck at this point. I've seen several replays. It's just turbo. No reason to, I don't know. Maybe they have the random Kuhb in the main deck. There's no way. But if this is a Sangan and I destroy it, not great. But yeah, I'm just going to throw down the limiters. I don't even know why I needed to give that reasoning, but I did. Game 1 is mine. Feeling very good about that. Like I said, I think winning Game 1 here is very crucial. The opponent opens with a not very good hand at all. I'm going to grab Thunder Dragon. It's not very good in this matchup, at least. You really want to be seeing some sort of protection. Upstart just goes into Tribe. They've got a handful of 7 monsters. So my hand's pretty good. I'm going to Upstart, see Blowback. That's fine. I'll Pot of Greed. I need a Scapegoat and a Royal Decree. That's not bad either. I've got meta to go with the Scapegoat now if I want to. Suck up a monster, maybe Tribute for Blowback Dragon. Go that way. I'm going to summon out Facilier. I make this play a lot. I could meta for King Dragoon here just to play around Night Assailant. It also clears Spy, but also maybe I just attack here. No reason to commit the meta because I do have the Scapegoat as well to go with it. Yeah, we'll just get the monster face up, get the information, helps my Snatch Steal, don't waste the Metamorphosis. I think I like not doing that, but I do go for meta. Okay. I go into King Dragoon. Yeah. This plays around Night Assailant. I guess this plays around, like, exactly not Tribe. I'm pretty confident my opponent doesn't have a Torrential or a Mirror Force, so a lot of layers to that decision. I could see it going either way. A meta for King Dragoon's probably totally fine here. If this gets through and the opponent doesn't have, like, exactly Tribe, I probably just win the game. Not, like, guaranteed, obviously, but it would be very, very big. But do get rid of a Spy. Unfortunately, we see the opponent does have Tribe. I set my Decree here. I don't set the Scapegoat. The reason for that is I don't want to flip it up, really. I don't want my opponent to Heavy Storm and then me have to flip up Scapegoat because my opponent could definitely also have Heavy Storm in their hand. And then me lock my field whenever I have a reasoning that could potentially get into a Stein. So just setting the Royal Decree makes sense for me here. Especially now that the meta's gone. We do see that they have Tribe. And they're able to get into Chaos Sorcerer as well. So, yeah, I guess I am kind of glad that I went into the King Dragoon here. King Dragoon also plays around Snatch Steal a little bit better. So, unfortunately, I'm going to be out of Stein range here, but that's all right. I've got Snatch Steal to take Tribe, and that's absolutely massive. Unfortunately, I draw the Demock. Though I guess it could be fortunate if the opponent calls 8 off of this reasoning. But yeah, I'm going to lead on reasoning, see what I get to better inform my Snatch Steal. But I mean, Snatch Steal's probably going to be for Tribe here, right? They probably, oh, they call 6. That's interesting. I hit Facilier. Okay, so Facilier is back. We love to see it. Yep, snatch the Tribe. I don't have a lethal line here, but I can do a whole bunch of damage. Tribute off the Tribe for Blowback Dragon. Yep, I remember thinking about that. Actually, for a little bit, what the best way to move forward here was, because like I could have tributed both for Demock and maybe gone for another reasoning, but I think it's just a lot more consistent to just clear their board, not worry about Demock. I've already got a 2-turn clock here because this is 5,100 damage. The opponent's at 9,000, so they haven't set any back row over a couple of turns, so I don't think they really have any interaction at all. I know 2 cards in their hand are Thunder Dragon, so this just puts the clock on the opponent. I do have Blowback here as well if they set a monster, and if they do draw into something, I've got Royal Decree. Now being at 3,900, I'm pretty happy setting the Scapegoat. If the opponent activates Heavy Storm, that's fine. That's one more card that I just don't have to worry about in their hand. We see they draw another monster. This is impressive. They've drawn 1 non-monster card this entire duel. This is kind of the luck that I need to win this. I draw Reasoning. I'm going to activate Blowback. And Blowback's going to do Blowback things. Tails, heads, and you guessed it, tails. So I don't auto win here. Why do I not Reasoning? They know about both 7s. They know about a 6. I mean, they call 2? I still have a Jinzo in the deck, right? I do. What am I playing around? Night Assailant? Oh, no, they call 6 because I have Stein. And Stein is useless. That's why. Okay. So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, why did I not rip off this Reasoning? It's because it's kind of dead, right? So I just attack into the Moth. I'm going to deal as much damage as possible here. Put the opponent to 1100, pass the turn. They draw a Dead Trap Dust Shoot. Awesome. They upstart. They draw Scapegoat, which is kind of scary. So unfortunately, Blowback didn't give me my lethal attack last turn. And now I'm going to have to wade through some Scapegoat tokens, but I draw into Graceful Charity. There's my Stein, and there is Big Bang Shot. Thank you, Replays, for letting me know that this card is going to be good because the opponent is citing multiple Scapegoats. Love to see it. Draw Limiter Removal too, just for good measure. Blowback's going to go after the monster. And I don't think this even works, does it? We see a heads. Okay, Blowback does something for the second time this video. They get a Magician of Faith. Cool. I'm going to Big Bang Shot the Blowback Dragon. Now, like, both of these, of course, are lethal attacks going through, but this is a lethal attack going through a Scapegoat. So I feel pretty good here with the Royal Decree down and win the first match. So nice little 2-0. Got a little lucky there in game 2 because the opponent's draws were just absolutely horrendous. But yeah, that's how it is sometimes. You take the good luck whenever you're playing a tournament, right? Especially in a matchup that you think is going to be pretty rough in games 2 and 3. But let's get on to the grand finals match. All right, and the last match. This one, not quite a blowout like the last one was. But I remember being pretty nervous playing this, so I'm sure there were some small things that I did incorrectly here. Just like the rest of the video. Let's be real. Pretty good hand here. We set the Scapegoat Jar of Greed, which is like the optimal turn 1. We've got a Monster Gate with limit removal. We even have meta to go with a Scapegoat. Love to see it. Here, I'm not going to activate the Scapegoat because I'm probably not going to Monster Gate. I don't really want to go Tear and just suck up a face-down monster. I do have a way to manipulate the Tear with Monster Gate, but the opponent also set 2 back row, so good chance none of that actually goes through. Here, I could go into King Dragoon again. Don't hate that, but definitely going to Jar of Greed first to see what's up. Draw Brain Control, which is not ideal, but if the opponent does put something face up, that's fine. I opt to not do anything. I think that's fine as well. I kind of like summoning Facilier and attacking into the opponent's monster. But I think, yeah, what I was thinking here, I believe, is like, we'll get the opponent to flip up their own monster. I can flip up my Scapegoat to protect my life points, and then I can use Facilier along with Metamorphosis, so I can get out a Labyrinth Tank, and then if I brain control their monster, I can Monster Gate it and maybe get in a lethal attack with limiter removal. So, yeah, I don't hate this. A lot of times, like if I don't have another way to properly use the Facilier, I like to just attack the monster even if I end up hitting into a Spire or whatever, just to get things face up and give me some information and maybe clear a Deco or something like that. But this is fine. This also plays around Night Assailant pretty well. Opponent flips up Spy here. They have Spy double Night Assailant in hand. Okay. The Jar of Greed into Pot of Greed. Pretty good for them. Draw a couple of cards. Knock, not great. Sangan's not doing anything here. And they've got Ring of Destruction, which is not, like, the best. I'm going to take the 1200, and then I'm going to flip up Scapegoat. The reason for this is if they have like Ring of Destruction, which they do in the back, now I get to keep 2 goats, so I'm guaranteed to to keep the goats here, and like maybe they have, I don't know, some miraculous way to get out of Chaos Monster. I think it's just like totally fine. Taking the 1200 doesn't matter a whole lot. And just making sure also that I have a goat to use with meta and a goat to use with Monster Gate, if that is relevant. So I like taking the 1200 here. Drawing Ring, now I'm like, okay, that's really good. We've got options for days. Like we can take the spy, we can crash the spies, we can meta here for tear, take something, maybe Monster Gate it off. We can Facilier, do a whole bunch of damage if we want to meta it off into a Labyrinth Tank or something. No, like, I guess there is a clear-cut way to win here if Monster Gate works out in a really, really strong way. Like Monster Gate into Stein, the opponent doesn't have any back row, Gatling Dragon, 3 heads, Facilier into Labyrinth Tank, Crunch, limiter removal. I guess you don't even need the Labyrinth Tank at that point because Facilier with a limiter plus Gatling with a limiter is 8,000. So there are definitely ways to win here. Unfortunately, the opponent has 1 back row, so I got to think about that a little bit. And I think what I want to do here is probably just go meta first, go into tear, try to pull out a back row, and just go for there. I go for Monster Gate, which is kind of interesting here. I guess hitting Stein here is... Ooh. If I hit Stein... That's not amazing. It's not amazing knowing that they have exactly Ring of Destruction. I guess like Jinzo's a really good hit. Blowback's a pretty good hit. I've got some good hits here. I could leave the meta back as like... So if I pull out the trap here on whatever I get, then meta's sort of the backup plan to go into tear and just stall for a little bit. I don't think I like that as much. Maybe I was supposed to meta first, but Monster Gate can also just get me into a Jinzo, which just wins the game on the spot, right? Or Demock. So, yeah, I guess Monster Gate... If I go for meta here, though, they probably ring the tear. Huh. Oh, well. I mean, I get Demock, which is just going to get back Pot of Greed. Let's take a look at the graveyard. I could get back Giant Trunade. Man, I'm just no fearing the Mirror Force here. Okay. I think what I was thinking, I believe, is if I get back Giant Trunade and that's a chainable, then I've just completely wasted the Demock effect. So I get back Pot of Greed, try to see a few more cards, and maybe that helps push it over. Maybe I draw into a Trunade or a Heavy Storm here. There's a Reasoning, which is excellent, and a Graceful Charity. Good God. Okay. So pretty awesome there. Graceful Charity, draw Snatch, Jinzo, and Upstart Goblin. So I could tribute this Demock for the Jinzo, and that pretty much just seals up the game, I think, here. Because I can Brain Control, I can even do Reasoning stuff. Jinzo, 48 plus 48 is 96. So yeah, I can just Brain Control the Spy, crash Spy into Spy, attack over Sangan, and attack directly, and that should be enough. I go for Brain Control first, which I think is totally fine. Yeah, I'm just going to tribute off the Spy for Jinzo. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Instead of crashing Spy, yeah, instead of crashing Spies, either way the math works out. But instead of just crashing the Spies, I can just keep my Demock and summon Jinzo. Okay, sure. Reasoning for good measure. The opponent calls 7. I hit a Stein. Cool. Do even more here. Why not? I guess this helps beat a Book of Moon. But the opponent probably would have booked their Spy. I don't hate this play. Flipping any number of heads is awesome. I flip 2. Do I get a third? No, just the 2, but that's cool too. Take out the Sangan, take out the Spy. Basically, I just had... At some point there, I just had so many options that all led to a lethal line that it's just kind of like, whatever. I'm going to try to play around the Kuriboh as best as I can. You know, if you can do it, you probably should. There's no reason not to. Just go into another Gatling Dragon. And we have the limiter removal. Of course, there is no Kuriboh, but you never know. Getting on to game 2 here. This hand has a lot of promise, but it's definitely missing a little bit here. There's Upstart Goblin, that's good to see. Trap Dust Shoot sending Jinzo back is totally fine. I have a Royal Decree. Would love a Scapegoat instead I get a Monster Gate. Okay. Opponent draws into Serpent, which is pretty good to go along with our Raigeki break. We do see that they have a Scapegoat over here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the Royal Decree. I think that's totally fine. I draw into a Mind Control, and I'm like, well, set a monster, please, opponent. Do something. Unfortunately, I can't, of course, use Monster Gate or Meta with the Mind Control, but if they set like a Moth or even a Deco or something, it helps me find more stuff. Now I draw into Raigeki break. I'm like, that's not great with my Royal Decree. I opt to set it in case they try to take out my Decree. They do draw Breaker, so that's interesting. Yep, they just go in for an attack. That makes a lot of sense. And then they do actually go for the Decree. So I've got Raigeki break here. Go to my turn. I draw Lightning Vortex, which isn't a 0 because like I have nothing else going on, so I may as well take out my opponent's field, right? That's what I do. Just discard the Metamorphosis. I think Mind Control is very good here, and obviously these are just very powerful cards if I can ever draw into something to use them with. Opponent breaks my break, and I actually sit here and I think about this for a while, and then I use break. I actually discard Monster Gate. The reason that I keep a Mind Control here is in case the opponent sets a Deco or a Moth. Now I have, I guess Moth really probably just gets me the Mind Control back or the Monster Gate, so it's not going to help me dig unless I get back the Upstart Goblin. But if they set a Deco, then I can take that, and that's at least an extra draw, whereas the Monster Gate is not doing anything currently, and I may not need more than one to win. I don't know. But I could just not activate the Raigeki break here, but I think it's fine because I know my opponent is also siding in Battle Traps. But it ends up being a Scapegoat, so that definitely does not work out for me. They draw the Mirror Force. I wish I'd hit the Mirror Force with the break, of course. But they just set the break, pass a turn. I draw Facilier, which works with the Monster Gate, but not amazing. I'm just going to set it. I am going to Monster Gate. I think, like, back against the wall here, basically. Try to do something. Get into Demock, maybe. I can Lightning Vortex away these, but instead I just get into a Facilier and attack. They're not even going to Raigeki break it. That makes sense. They've got meta here. That's going to almost kill me. Not quite. I will go to 100, but essentially just dead here. Yep, set a monster, pass the turn. I finally draw my Scapegoat, but it's not going to do anything here. They have Raigeki break in the end phase. We will go to a deciding game 3. And this one goes pretty hard. So here, this hand is obviously already just insane. But now watch the Graceful Charity. Absurd. This is just the nut. We discard the Demock, and this is an interesting one. I discard the Scapegoat. So Scapegoat is this deck's like turn 1 best play. However, in this situation, if you look at this hand, if the opponent sets back row and they set a monster, which they're likely to do, as long as they don't have Scapegoat or Trap Dust Shoot, I win the game. I can Heavy Storm their back row. I can take their monster with Mind Control, summon Stein, get Gatling Dragon, Monster Gate it off for anything, win the game. I also have Premature Burial for Demock if I need to do that. And I guess that could be relevant because I do have second Stein in the deck. So I guess Monster Gate into anything isn't technically correct, but I can activate the Monster Gate. If I hit second Stein, I can Prima back the Demock, get the Monster Gate, and then Monster Gate off the other Stein, and then I win. So, I mean, they're very likely to not attack here because they're not going to do enough damage. And even if they do attack, that's still fine. I still win the game. So this is why I opted to keep these and just keep the Scapegoat in the bin. Don't need it. So I out loud this whole time, I remember sitting here, I'm like, no shoot, no goat, no shoot, no goat. That's all I want to see. Just none of those cards. Upstart Goblin, I'm like, yes, give me 1,000 life points. That makes it even more likely that I win the game here. I draw a Ring of Destruction. I'm like, that's actually not too bad. But the opponent didn't even set a monster. I don't need this mind control. But here's where things get cool. Heavy Storm. My opponent flips Scapegoat. I'm like, well, at least they didn't have the Trap Dust Shoot. Scapegoat, I might be able to beat. We do finally see the opponent find a Solemn Judgment. I don't think we saw that in either of the matches so far. They did have multiple, though. I know that for sure. I opt to Prima. Just go into Demock now, because now I don't need this other Monster Gate, really. Well, I guess I didn't really need the Monster Gate in the first place. Because Demock plus... keeping the Monster Gate over the Scapegoat, I think, does make sense, just in case the opponent does have Trap Dust Shoot. I'm thinking back to the Ditch Scapegoat line now. But Monster Gate just as a backup in case the opponent does have Trap Dust Shoot for Cyberstein, I think is totally fine. Yeah, whatever. It's fine here. Demock's going to give me back my Graceful Charity, which is awesome. I'm going to play that. I find Meta, which is awesome. I ditch Facilier. We don't need that where we're going. I just ditched the Upstart Goblin. Here comes Stein. Go into Gatling Dragon. Activate the effect. There's a Tails. There's a Heads. Okay, we hit one. Just one Heads. That's not enough to kill the opponent. However, now we meta off the Demock. We go for a second Gatling Dragon. See? Metamorphosis is awesome. I only need to hit one Heads here. Literally anything other than 0 wins me the game. There it is. I hit the Heads. I hit a second one for good measure. I also Monster Gate. Now at this point, we are definitely just trying to play around Kuhb to the best of our abilities. Mind Control, the Goat, and I'm just going to attack with all my monsters. So you'll see here that the opponent asked me after I make these attacks, no limiter. This is another one of those playing around Kuhb things. Yeah, I say since I had a ring, was holding in case of random Kuhb. So if it's weird because I had the ring, this attack is already for 8,000. So if they have one Kuhb, they'll stop the Facilier. That's fine. And then I can just attack with these, and then I can flip up ring on their in phase or whatever, and beat them that way. However, if they do have multiple Kuhbs, it gets a little weird. So the limiter beats one, but if they have multiple, then I play out the limiter. I only hit them for 5,200, and then I lose my board. So it's one of those like really finicky things. They didn't have to play around multiple Kuhbs, but in this case, I could. And also, if they had multiple Kuhbs, it still works out if I don't activate the limiter on my turn, because I can attack in for, well, I guess they stop these. Yeah, I still get in for 2,600, and then on their turn, I can ring chain limiter removal on the Facilier and deal 56 to them, and that will also still get the game. So basically, just playing around multiple Kuhbs there. I am a believer in if you can play around literally everything, you should. So if they had 2 Kuhbs, I still win. If they had 3 Kuhbs, I had to, sure. Whatever. I guess I'll die. But no need to throw out the limiter there and potentially lose to a bunch of Kuhbs. Anyway, you all don't need to hear me talking about Kuhb so much, but yeah, taking down the Raw, feel very good about it. I'm now 2-0 in the Raws that I've played. That feels awesome. Both of them, like I said, with Giant Trunade, Reasoning, and Monster Gate in my deck. Of course, the last time I did it was with Demock launch. Hopefully, I can do a little bit better than second in the Obelisk this time around, and I can take that down, get my World's Invite here with one of my favorite decks in format, and yeah, see what I'll play at Worlds. But, you know, got to win the Obelisk before I can even think about that. The Obelisk looks like a lot of Warrior players to me right now, so my hopes are not super high, but I'm going to give it my best shot. But that's how I won the Raw. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll be back with the next one.